Hello, everyone. This is the Insert Title Show, and I am your host, Wolf Strife. On this episode, I'm going to be reviewing the first season of Versailles. I just got back from France, and naturally, I visited the Palais of Versailles while I was there. And my sister recommended that I check out the show Versailles. So when I got back home, I checked it out on Netflix and went through it in about 3 days. And I surprisingly liked it. I had known about the show for a couple of years now, but I didn't really care to check it out because I actually thought that the show was going to be mainly bullshit, just straight up fiction. But I was very pleasantly surprised while doing research after watching the show that actually the show has a good bit of history in it. So I did not waste my time or fill my head with all useless information. So yeah, it's actually a really good show. The reason that I really started watching it was when my sister told me that the guy who plays Louis XIV was the same guy who played Athelstan on Vikings. I was like, oh, really? Okay, so yeah, I'll definitely check it out, and I'm glad I did. I mean, it's a good show. It's not a action-packed show. Like, there's no sword fighting really at all. It's mostly court intrigue and conspiracies and poisonings and torture and executions and that kind of stuff. There is a ton of sex in this. I mean, the plot is basically moved by sex. Like, whether it's gay sex, hetero sex, I mean, they just don't give a shit, which I guess is probably accurate for the time and place. I mean, hello, this is France. A lot of fucking going on here. I mean, it gets kind of ridiculous after a while, but man, being a guy, I kind of enjoy it. But yeah, there's just a lot of interesting things going on in this show. The script I like a lot. It's actually a bit more realistic than most TV shows nowadays, especially period pieces, because the dialogue in the show is mainly back and forth between two or three characters. And if you look at other shows like Game of Thrones or Black Sails, there's always a moment when one of the characters has to go into a speech or a monologue for 2 minutes, and it's just like, okay, here's the part where he's going to talk for 2 minutes. It gets kind of annoying and predictable, but that never happens in this show. It really is just straight up dialogue. And the dialogue is good. Like, between the guys, it's mostly arguing and trying to, figure out, hey, what the fuck are you doing, asshole, and that kind of stuff. And the women's dialogue is pretty interesting because it's a lot of catty remarks and women sniping at each other and stuff. So it's kind of an interesting dichotomy. And yeah, it's a good script, and the acting is superb. I think George Blagden does a really good job as King Louis XIV, and yeah, I really like him. He's a good young actor. I really enjoyed him as Athelstan on Vikings, and the other actors do a really good job, like Alexander Vlohos. I guess is how you say his name. He plays his younger brother Philippe, Duke of Orleans. He's an interesting character, and probably my favorite character in the show is Fabien Marchal. He's the king's chief of police slash torturer slash security bodyguard, and basically he just runs around the kingdom dispatching the king's enemies and stuff. I really like him. He's a really cool character. Just very sociopathic, very deadpan, does not have any emotions or gives a shit about anybody else's emotions. I mean, he's just a really interesting, cool character. And I like the king's valet, Alexandria Bontemps, I guess is how you say his name. He's pretty good. The actor who plays him I like. And the Madame de Clermont, she's interesting. She's interesting. I really like her with Fabian. The two of them are, yeah, they're pretty interesting. And Philippe's lover, Chevalier de Lorraine, he's interesting, kind of funny. And yeah, there's just a lot of good characters, a lot of good acting, and it's just like I said, a really good show. And there is a lot of history put into this. Like, Henrietta really was sent to negotiate a treaty with her brother, Charles II. And it was really cool seeing how Louis XIV got the idea for Les Invalides, basically to pacify his angry soldiers and stuff. So that was really cool seeing that. And just a lot of what Louis XIV says. Like he yells a lot that he is France, he is the state, and all that. So that's actually historically accurate, and I think they do a really good job of showing what it must have been like to have been in the Palace of Versailles and then the court of King Louis XIV at the time. Just a lot of conspiracies, a lot of, court intrigue and poisons and just, just a lot of crazy shit going on and lots of sex. I mean, being king at this time would have been pretty scary. I mean, you definitely have to worry about your nobles, keeping them happy because they will rebel against you, and they did several times against Louis XIV, and poisoning was very common back then. So there was a lot to worry about, let alone having to freaking run a country here. And you gotta remember too, France is surrounded by powerful kingdoms. I mean, you got England to the northwest, you got the Dutch who are coming up in the north, you got the Spanish who are probably the most powerful nation in the world at the time. And you got the Holy Roman Empire and the papacy. I mean, there's a lot going on in this time period. And Louis XIV is definitely one of the most fascinating French rulers ever. I mean, it's probably him and Napoleon. I think those are the top two to learn about. So I would definitely recommend checking this show out. I think you will like it. You might want to read up on some of the people that are in the show, like King Louis XIV and his brother, and, just check out some of the historical figures before watching the show, just so that you have an idea of who's who and what's going on and that kind of stuff. Because the first couple of episodes, I was kind of lost. I was like, okay, what the fuck is going on? But once the show got going, probably around episode 4 or 5, then I got into it. So yeah, just check it out, and if you want to, read a little bit about it. Try not to read how they die. You don't want to, spoilers, but definitely just to kind of get an idea of the time and place. Maybe do some research on Wikipedia for like 20 minutes before checking it out. But yeah, other than that, check it out. It's on Netflix, and I think you'll like it. I'm going to go ahead and start season 2, so we'll see how it goes. Season 1 ends on a pretty good cliffhanger, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely check out Versailles.